At this time, I'll call our regular meeting to order. We have with us tonight Dr. Ron Godbolt from the Word of Truth Ministry to lead us in our invocation. It will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. We welcome you this evening. We're glad that you could be a part of this meeting. If you will, all that can, please rise for our invocation followed by our pledge.
Let us pray. Gracious Father, we thank you for this day you blessed us to see. We thank you for this season, helping us to remember the real meaning of the season. And we ask your blessing upon this meeting tonight, that your headship would take prevalence of everything that we do and say, and that your name be honored in all that we do. We ask your blessings upon your people. You said in your word that we pray for our leaders, that we might have a peaceable life. We pray for the commissioners and mayor, that they would lead this city in the great way that it should go, and that your name get all the glory in everything that's done and said. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. At this time, do we have any additions or deletions from our agenda that is before you?
Motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve the agenda as it is before you. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed. The first thing on our agenda is a presentation, and this is about the Public Safety Building Project update. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Holland.
Okay, how are y'all this evening?
Fine, sir.
Okay, we are excited to come to you tonight to show you where we are on the Public Safety Facility project. This is something that's been in the makings for probably 2 years now. In February of 2016, Gordon Johnson came and gave us a governmental complex master plan study for all the facilities right here in Municipal Park. And one of the things we took from that was we needed to do something quickly with the public safety facility, police and fire departments. Both the buildings that we have over there are getting very aged. There's a lot of repairs that needs to happen. And one of the things that was focused on in this study was that in order to get essentially both buildings up to where they needed and for space, it would make more sense to tear them down than to fix them, you know, up to the standards that they needed to be. So with that, in March of 2017, we took to the council at that time at the budget workshop the question of, do we start looking for property for a new facility, or do we use the current property that we have and make something brand new? They are combining the facilities. They determined at that time, let's combine the facility because you can save some money joining the two projects, and let's use the land that we currently own. Because by doing it that way, we could start immediately working on the project instead of first having to go and find property in order to put it on. Plus, new property would have cost more as well. So they said, go ahead and build it here, combine the buildings, do it on our current property. So we started working towards that. Then we started looking at different architects that design public safety facilities. So we narrowed it down to two separate firms, and myself, the police chief, the deputy chief, the fire chief, and the deputy fire chief went on, and sometimes the public works director. We went and visited different police and fire stations that were built by these two different firms to see what we liked or didn't like about some of the things they had previously built. And we determined which stations that we liked and different qualities about those stations, whether police or fire. And we ended up hiring Garner and Brown Architects. Scott Brown is here with us tonight, and or Scott Garner is here tonight with us. And we started the process of doing a design for this building. Once we hired the architect firm in January of this year, we started putting together different programming studies. And I brought some of the books that we worked with that had different, they're all different aspects of the police and fire facilities. Every room that would be in these facilities, we looked at them individually for police and for fire. And we would meet for hours sometimes and go through this to see what specifically police and fire needed in their facilities. And then once we went through that, then we met again. Now, we've had a lot of meetings, but then again we met in July of this year and narrowed it down to a construction thing to try to start looking at the budget aspects of what this building could cost. Let's get it down to what's a reasonable amount that we can afford going forward. So we took all the ideas from police, from fire, from our building and grounds, myself, and the architect's expertise, and we've come to a point now where we're excited to show where we are at this point. So, move this closer. And don't worry, I'm going to have it on the screen also, so y'all can see it. Okay, so Scott, if you want to go to there. This is the, this first thing you'll see will be the rendering of the outside of the building. Well, first of all, before we do that, are there any questions of how we got to this point? As you can see, I'm excited to show this to y'all.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Drew, a thorough needs assessment's been done with the facility up to this point.
Oh, definitely,
Of
yes.
both departments. Okay.
Yeah. And we've met with Scott, was it last week? Where he showed these to us, and police and fire are both also excited about this. So I guess we're ready to show it to you now.
Uh-oh. Yeah. It's coming off the thing.
Okay. It might be hard to see a little bit with this, but this is a rendering. The top version is the Rockfish Road side of the building. The bottom version is the Gulfview side. So looking at it, the Rockfish Road side, the longest section there on this side of the dark area in the middle is going to be more the police side of the building. You're going to have a, what do you call it? A welcome area, a common entrance area in the middle. That'll be for both police and fire, and then the side on the far end there is going to be mainly the fire station. And then down at the bottom, that's more the fire station side. We'll be facing Gulfview, and so the area where the trucks are coming in and out is pretty close to the same area where they come in and go out on Gulfview now. We did meet with DOT. It's going to have 3 different access points to the property as it does now. One here, the entrance off of Rockfish, kind of to come to Town Hall, and then 2 exits onto Gulfview, one where the existing fire station entrance and exit is, and then where the street, the private drive that goes behind the fire station. So we're very excited about this plan and hoping to get a consensus from the council to proceed. So, because where we go from now, we've got kind of the floor plan and how it's going to fit on the site, and what we're looking at now once we proceed from here and start getting engineered drawings and actual construction plans. The cost will start going up a little bit, and then we're more pretty much in this to complete it at that point.
Yes, ma'am.
Drew, I think is beautiful. I love it, and it's long overdue. And I think that you ought to go for it and come up with let us know how you're going to do it.
How are we going to do it?
Yes.
We're in discussions right now with USDA to do the financing. Obviously, we're going to have to finance it. We're not going to have, we had the bond discussion last week. We're not going to have to go the route for bonds on this. And if y'all have noticed the last few years for our budget, we haven't included, other than the 2 new fire trucks, any new debt, knowing that we would have to prepare for this type of facility coming up soon. So it's taken us almost 2 years to get to this point, and it might be another year or so before we can get to the point of actually bricks and mortar and that sort of thing.
So if it stands now, you go through USDA, then
Yeah, we've been approved.
without raising taxes or anything.
I'm not planning on having to raise taxes for this.
Madam Mayor.
We won't know until we get there, but I'm not planning to.
Okay. Commissioner Bellflowers?
You know, I know we're going to have a lot of discussion about this. It's a beautiful building, and I'd like to go ahead and just make the motion that we proceed with the design process and the financing process with their joint public safety facility on the fire and police property sites.
Okay. Any other discussion or concerns or
Yes, ma'am.
input?
Just
Yes,
discussion,
Commissioner
no
Legg?
concern. What, where's that gonna sit on the property that's there?
It's actually going to sit
Forward or backward?
right in front of the current station. It'll sit right in front of, I know y'all may not be able to tell where everything is, but it's going to be, the existing police station is right here. And the existing fire station is right here. So this building, we can build right in front of them. We have to have a certain amount of space. The fire department will actually be working out of their current station as it is now. They'll just be using the rear entrance and exit, not the front. The police station, we've mentioned before, we will probably have to find temporary location for the police station in the meantime, because the area where the police station sits is going to be their future parking lot. That'll probably have to be the, what do you call it, for the construction? Staging area. Yeah, the staging area for the construction. So it'll be kind of built in two phases. The building in the front and then the parking lots in the back will be built kind of as a phase two. And we've looked at a few places to temporarily locate the police station. We're working on that now. And once we have something a little more concrete, we'll be bringing that back to you as well.
You have a timeline on this?
Not a in stone timeline, but probably we could be, what do you think, maybe next year at this time, doing some actual construction. It depends if all the different pieces fall into place like they're supposed to.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
Thank you,
Any other comments?
I do.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Either way.
Go ahead.
What's the estimated cost to complete?
We don't have a true estimate at this point, but originally, when we first posed the project, we were thinking in the $8 million range. Right now, after we've got it to this point, it could be, Scott doesn't even want me to give y'all a number, but it could be $12 million, give or take. We're not going to narrow it down to a number right now, but with the USDA financing, one thing that's good about it is you can go 30, 35, even 40 years out with that debt. They don't have a problem with doing that. And they also have, for USDA debt, there's no prepayment penalty. So, for instance, if we were to do a 40-year loan and decide later, you know, we could probably do better than that. We don't really have to adjust the loan. We can just start paying it off sooner if we wanted to do
Is it
that.
a fixed rate, or is it variable with a balloon? Or
It'd be a fixed rate.
do we have any idea what it might be?
Right now, since we probably wouldn't even go into financing till probably, you know, a year from now, I'd hate to throw out a rate, but rates right now, we get, you know, tax-free financing, so it's a lot lower than what most folks can get.
Well, what you're asking for us right now to do is approve engineering? Or the
To
project
just proceed
ordinance?
from where we're at now. I guess Mr. Bellflower had a good motion. Just here's the idea, here's the plan. Once we go from here, the next step I think would be to start actually engineering the drawings. Once we get those, we can actually start getting some actual potential construction costs, and then see what type of temporary housing we need for the police department and get some amounts with that. And then you know, as we're going along, keep y'all
When would you
informed.
anticipate requests for bids would go out? When would you anticipate requests for bids would go out?
I'm not sure how long engineer drawings would take.
I'd say the fall or so.
Yeah, probably the fall
Are these
of 19.
these aren't design build, are they?
No, there's
Okay. That's all I had, Madam.
Okay, Commissioner Larson.
Okay, so the police department portion of it, obviously, once this is done, the fire department would start probably looking into expanding as far as substations, but the police department, is this roof line something that they would be able to continue to go up another floor if needed space?
I don't think we could go up another floor, but the police could operate from this facility for a very long time. We met with the chief, we looked at another station, and I think we built in the spaces that he'll need for quite a while.
We did factor
And
some
you
growth.
have the option for substations for police as well as
Right.
for
Right, we did factor some growth into both parts of the facility for fire and police. So we're looking at, a building of this magnitude, we're thinking, this should be a 50-year building and be able to house what they need. Fire, of course, we will, as the town grows, we will need substations in the future, but this will definitely satisfy everything they need for the main station and service the town for both police and fire. It also has, in the middle, that's part of the shared area, is a training room / EOC, Emergency Operations Center, which is what the town needs. We've had 2 hurricanes and had to do without a lot of things that the town could have used in order to keep things going. This will be the main focus area for any type of emergency operations going forward in the future.
And the fire department don't mind cooking for the police department?
Yeah, cold cereal, they'll sit out. No, but the station is set up where pretty much the police and fire, even though it's under one main building, they're 2 separate things. So it'll be secured in such a way that fire has access to the fire side of the building, police has access to the police side of the building. It'll be fob access to gain entry. It also has a shared workout room for both police and fire that they can use. And that's pretty much most of the common area. The lobby area, that's where I was thinking of earlier. The lobby area,
Yeah.
the operations center, which can also be used for training, and then the workout room is some of the shared features.
Ironically, there's firewalls, I assume, between the sections there, so the whole place won't burn down, right?
we're going to have fire separation in there.
It's going to be a sprinkler building also.
Madam Mayor, I just wanted to add a comment. Without any question, this has been a long, arduous process to get to where we are. This proposed site meets the needs of our growing community. And I say, Mayor, we go forward tonight. And I made that motion early.
All right, we have
And
a
I
motion.
asked the board to consider this. We go
Last
forward.
time we spent that kind of money, we filled it up with water at the lake.
Okay, at this time I have a motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed, thank you very much.
All right, thank y'all.
Thank you.
But-
Mr. Brown, we look forward to the next phase.
Yeah, I'll leave these boards up here, so if anybody wants to take a look at them, you can. And what we'll do is probably, I don't know if we can get it on there tomorrow, but I'll see if maybe we can upload some of this to the website so that folks can go on
That'd be most
and
helpful.
look at the thing here and where it fits on the property. And if anybody has any questions or something, you can just direct them to myself.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right, thank y'all.
Thank you. Okay, the next thing on our agenda is our fiscal year 2017-2018 audit presentation from Thompson, Price, Scott, Adams and Company. And we do have, or did have a financial committee meeting prior to this to go over it with the members who are made up of Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell, Commissioner Edwards, and myself, along with our town clerk, our town manager, and Mr. Holland, and a representative from the company. They've gone over the sort of like the synopsis with us. There is a larger copy for us to go through and look at. But at this time, I'll turn it back to Mr. Holland, and you can introduce our person that's going to help you, or you can carry us next.
Okay, I'll introduce our auditor. Stuart Hill is from Thompson, Price, Scott, and Adams. No, did I say that right? Okay, Thompson, Price, Scott. I actually got it right that time. They've been doing our audit for the last several years. They do a great job. They make sure that we're doing a great job, and we get the audit in on time again, which is great. And I'm getting it ready now by the end of the year to submit it for the CAFR Award, which is the Certificate of Achievement in Financial Reporting. So Stuart's going to come up now and give you a brief presentation on the results of the 2018 audit.
First of all, I'd like to thank you guys again for allowing us to do the audit. I'd like to thank Drew and his staff for all their help in getting all the information and cooperating with us when we were asking for a lot of samples and things to test and look at. And it's a tedious process, and your guys do a great job, so we appreciate them. And so thank you for that. So. As you have already mentioned, you have a copy of the full audit report that has already been submitted to the LGC and approved. And we're going to look at the presentation summary to go through some of the key items on it. We'll try to keep this fairly brief, but feel free to ask questions now or at a later time if you come up with something else that you forgot to ask or didn't see until later. So one thing I want to point out is it is June 30, 2018, not June 30, 2016. So we got a couple places where we got a wrong date, I think. But anyway, the numbers should be right. So in the presentation summary, the first thing you have is a letter to the governance, and that's just basically gives you any comments and things that we're required to give you in terms of how the audit went. Basically, you've got a clean audit. There were no findings. Your personnel were cooperative. The information was readily available to us, and so there's nothing in there that's anything other than good stuff. So I won't read through that, but that's what that letter basically is telling you. If you can move over, flip this thing here. Yeah, if you want to. Thank you. Okay, so let's go ahead to the. Yeah. So you got a page in your book here that has a lot of data. There's probably 2 or 3 pages on the slide, but it's all on one page in your book. This is a lot of data, a lot of numbers. What we're going to do, though, rather than read these numbers, is we're going to flip over to be page 5 in your book, and we'll see some charts and graphs that sort of help you visualize what these numbers are. And this gives you a 5-year trend of a lot of these numbers. So for this first graph that we're looking at, this is an analysis of your general fund's fund balance. The blue columns represents the total fund balance. The red
That was 2016's report.
You got a different one on there?
Yeah, that graph looked a little different from what we had.
Yeah. I stand corrected. Those numbers weren't right for this year.
I may have put the wrong year on this laptop. I don't see 18 as true. I must have put 16 on here by mistake.
Okay, well, I could just go from this. I could go.
I have copies of it, and I guess for the folks in the audience, this will be online tomorrow,
Okay.
and I'll make sure it's 2018's. So
Okay.
I have apparently put the wrong report on the presentation slide.
Okay. So anyway, you should have the 2018 June 30, 2018 report in your book with this. It's got the black cover. And so on page 5 is the chart that I was talking about. The blue columns represent the total fund balance for your general fund. The red columns are the part that is designated, the portion that is restricted for some reason or other, be it for state statute or be it for something you as a board have already designated it to be restricted for. So those numbers from 2014, the total fund balance was 4.2 million for the that's for the restricted portion. The red columns 4.2 million, and it's gone down to 2.4 million in 2018. The total fund balance was 7.4 in 2014, and has gone up to 8.2 million in 2018. The chart on the bottom of page 5 represents the analysis of your fund balance as a percentage of the total, the available fund balance. Basically, the available fund balance would be the total minus that was restricted up top. So you can see that it has gone from 51.05%, that the blue line there represents Hope Mills, 51.05% in 2014, has gone as high as 79.7 in some years that you were in the process of doing some of your projects, and as they have been completed this year, the fund balance has been spent out some back down to 53.4%, which is pretty much in line with the red line, which is the group weighted average, which means other towns across the state that is a similar population size as Hope Mills. So that's for your available fund balance. On page 6, we have analysis of your unassigned fund balance as a percentage of your general fund expenditures. So those percentages have gone from 21.57 in 14 to 37.32% in 2018. Again, it came down from 17 to 18 for the same reasons as completing those projects. Perfect. Thank you. The chart on the bottom of page 6 is analysis of your general fund revenues over or under your expenditures. And basically, you can see that in 2018, it's dropped quite a bit, and that's basically also due to a lot of these projects that are being, you've built up your funds, and now you're paying some of the things off on some of these projects that you're getting completed now. So it's basically converting from funds available to assets at this point that have been completed. So on page 7, we have 2 charts. The first one is your cash balances. The second one is your fund balances. Your cash balances, this just represents where they are. The bulk of it is in the general fund. Part of the smaller portion of the cash balances are in the other governmental funds, which are your project funds primarily. Your fund balance is likewise mostly in the general fund, with the smaller portion being in the capital projects. Difference between the cash balance and the fund balances. Fund balance is the difference between total assets and their liabilities. Cash balances is the money that's in the bank, basically. On page 8, we're taking a look at your tax rates. Your property tax rates have been consistent for the last 4 years. They went up a little bit from 14 to 15, from 42 cents per 100 to 46 cents, and it's been that number since then. Hope Mills is the blue line. Again, the group weighted average, which is other towns of similar size across the state, represents very similar rates. Collection percentages are on the chart at the bottom. You can see that you're at 99.72%. There's 2 other lines. The red line is the group weighted average, again, other towns of similar size. The green line just represents all towns, no matter their size. So they're all up there in about the same range. They're all 99%, basically. On page 9, we show a chart from 14 through 18 for your total property value in the red, and your total levy amount from 14 to 18 in the blue. The chart at the bottom, the pie chart, is a breakdown of your general fund revenues. This simply just categorizes your revenues by different functions. As we can see on that, the bulk of your revenue, the biggest portion at least, is your intergovernmental revenue, which is your sales taxes that are distributions from the state that have been collected. The second largest is your ad valorem taxes, and then third would be sales and services. And then on page 10, the final chart is a pie chart of the actual expenditures. And on this particular one, the public safety is the largest percentage, followed by the general government, and then the cultural and recreational. So this just basically shows you what categories you're spending the monies on. So again, those are just some key items from the audit report. A lot more detail in the full audit. You know, there's all kinds of things in there. You know, there's some of the reports in there. Drew has some good statistical information. He's got some good management and discussion analysis report, some introduction material in there as well, and the notes to the financial statements can tell you a whole lot in there about how things are going. You can get a good understanding of things if you read through the notes, if you are inclined to do so. Obviously, there's a lot of financial statements in there that, you know, if you're a numbers person, you'll like those. If you're not, you might rather read the notes. And with that, if you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer it. If you have questions later, please give us a call. Drew knows how to get up with us, and we'll be glad to try to get you an answer.
Okay. So is there anyone that has any questions?
I was just gonna make a comment. We talked about it in the finance and accounting meeting, whatever, committee meeting, that we lost about maybe $8 million there on that last revaluation, apparently, on the total value, but we didn't have to raise taxes. I think Drew mentioned it'd be less than 1 cent to make it revenue neutral. The citizens might have had some questions about that. That's on page 9 on these graphs. But so we did take a kind of a hit as far as depreciation in our local area. Pretty good hit.
Yeah. And just to add to that, our commercial development is what balanced it out. We're the only municipality in Cumberland County that happened with, that the commercial balanced out the revaluation of the property taxes, so that also held us intact.
I believe that is a continuing trend today. It's helping us out even today. Thank you very much. Any doubts that I had on some things were answered at the meeting a while ago.
Okay.
And I appreciate you did a great job.
Thank you, sir.
Drew, thank you for your assistance on that, and Melissa, whomever else jumped in there. I appreciate that. It kind of makes things pretty clear when you sit and look at it instead of just hearing numbers.
Right.
So thank you, sir, for your trouble.
Well, thank you. And again,
Madam
I
Mayor.
appreciate you guys
Yes,
allowing us to
There's
do
one
the
key
job.
chart up there. All of them are great, but there's one key chart up there when you talk about a property tax. And the one that I like was the consistent property tax of our community, and the weighted average, I mean, how we matched up against other municipalities our size. And we are dead on with our tax rate. And I know that's a big issue in the community with taxpayers, but the finance department is doing the right thing, and we're setting the right tax rate because we've matched up with other municipalities. Just super job, really is. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Do we need a motion to accept this audit? Is that appropriate at this time? I know that we've done it in the past, or do you want to?
Yeah. I think.
Might as well.
Yeah, that's appropriate.
Okay.
I'll make that motion to accept the audit report.
Okay, I have a motion to accept the audit. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you, Drew.
All right, thanks. I would let you know, we are planning to submit it for the CAFR award, like I mentioned to you before. And for y'all's reading enjoyment, like Stuart said, the MD&A in the report is a good read about different aspects of the town's financial situation. The notes section is a little bit more lengthy, but it gives you a good breakdown of all the different aspects of the town as far as debt, the liabilities, and assets, fixed assets, and everything. And then at the back of the report, the statistical section, you get a 10-year comparison of a lot of different aspects of the finances of the town. So you can compare pretty much over the last 10 years where we've come from and how each year kind of, even though sometimes you might see, like this year, you know, we've had the last 3 or 4 years where it's gone up and now it's dipped down. We've completed some projects that now we're taking off the books, we're putting them in as an asset. So it's more of a balance sheet entry instead of necessarily an expense entry because it's investing in the town. So it's just going from equity to an asset. So it stays on the balance sheet, and that's always a good thing. So I appreciate Stuart and his firm doing our audit. It was in on time. It has been approved by LGC, and my staff does a lot to help out with getting this done too. So so I appreciate the work that they do, and thank y'all, the council, for supporting us in what we do as well.
I think also just gear them into looking at page 70 because that also shows the principal property taxpayers in Hope Mills, and I think that's an interesting page also that is included this year. But that gives you some ideas of the assessed values of these different properties and how much they aid our economic status.
Right, because that shows the top 10 taxpayers for 2018 and then who our top 10 taxpayers were from 2009. So they're good reports in the back.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, sir. Okay, at this time we have a public hearing, and this public hearing is case P18-45. It's a rezoning of 1.49 plus or minus acres from R6 residential and C3 heavy commercial to CP planned commercial or to a more restrictive zoning district located at 2603 and 2605 Hope Mills Road, and this was submitted by Ted Hill on behalf of Hillside Landscape Supplies, Inc. And I'll turn it over to Mr. McLaughlin.
Hello, Madam Mayor, board members. As stated, this is case P1845, which is a rezoning request. In terms of existing zoning, you can see the subject property highlighted in red. This is an established commercial corridor. So to the immediate north and south, you see other C3 properties, but there are some established residential areas across the street to the far west and to the immediate east, to the rear of the subject property along John Smith Road. And as such, the land uses reflect the makeup of the existing zoning. You have residential and primarily commercial directly adjacent to the subject property. This is an aerial photograph showing the property outlined in white. Existing soils. Water and sewer is available. And here are your site photographs. This is a view from Hope Mills Road at the subject property. Again, there's a small slither of land that gives access off of Hope Mills Road, but I'll get into that further later. This is another view of the subject property. Another view of one of the residential structures currently existing on the subject property. The second residential structure. And this is a view looking south along Hope Mills Road. This is a view looking west along Hope Mills Road. And this is a northern view of Kick Road. And what I'm also doing is I'm going to start doing some additional maps to kind of give you some ideas. I'm going to leave this one up because I want you guys to see the relationship to the subject property in regards to the town of Hope Mills limits and the county limits. If you see on this map, the subject property is outlined in red. The whited out areas on each side, those are basically the town of Hope Mills MIA or in the county, and in the area that you see in green, those represent the town limits. So I kind of wanted to give you an idea just relative to where these properties are located with respect to the town limits. Now, in regards to the development, as stated before, subject property is a 1.49 acre split zone parcel addressed as 2603 and 2605 Hope Mills Road. The site has roughly 34 feet of frontage along Hope Mills Road, as the bulk of the oddly shaped lot is located in the rear of an existing TLC car wash. There are commercial uses on both sides of the private drive that gives access to the subject property. With like I said, two residential structures you saw in the photographs. They are not visible from Hope Mills Road. The front portion of the property is owned under C3 regulations, with the rear designated under R6 single-family residential zoning. The zoning along Hope Mills Road, as stated, is a well-established commercial corridor with residential uses across the street and to the rear of the property. In terms of the current proposal, there is no current site plan for this development, as this is a straight rezoning request. Staff has been in contact with Mr. Hill, who has indicated that he does not have a proposal on this particular property, and that he's marketing it for commercial sale. So that's basically what he's indicated to us, but there is no site plan associated with this development or this request. In terms of the adopted plan compliance, the 2030 Growth Vision Plan calls for urban at this location, and the Southwest Cumberland Land Use Plan calls for heavy commercial. Town staff recommendations for approval, and the Cumberland County Joint Planning Board recommended approval as well on November 20th. I'd like to open up the floor to any questions that you may have.
Anyone of the commissioners have commissioners before we open it up for public comment?
Chancellor, that property we just approved with Greg Spears in attendance.
Which
across
property?
from Cumberland Mills, down where the church is.
Behind the church.
It's a C2P, right?
You mean the one we did at the last hearing?
That's right.
Yes, yes, that's
So
correct.
the map's not been updated for that, of course.
That's where the R6A is at.
Yeah. Yeah, so what was ultimately happening is, at the time that map was under, that project was under consideration, they had already prepared this particular case for review and comment and things of that nature. So that's why the actual zoning map may not reflect that C2P. If you recall, the property that you were inquiring about, the request was for commercial, but the planning board recommendation was for C2P instead, which the board ultimately complied with.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Chancellor, the property in the back of this location off of John Smith Road, all of that is residential, correct?
That is correct. Where you see the 2603 and the 2605, those are two residences, but they're in the rear of residences that are fronting off of John Smith. So all of that area in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is zone residential.
All of it.
All of it.
All of it up John Smith Road. All that's residential homes. Okay.
You've got the doctor's office there somewhere, right? About a block down from the across from John Smith Vineyards.
Yeah, this is your zoning map. So if you notice what you're asking about,
Go back one.
this entire area is
Can you
on
go back one?
R6A.
Can you go back one?
Now this is
right
where
there where it's all in yellow. That's all residential.
yes, that's
And
the
on the
lane.
other side of John Smith, that's also residential.
Yeah.
Yes.
And part of that is actually Hope Mills, like the Vineyards of John Smith is part of Hope Mills. Because this isn't our MIA, but the Vineyards of John Smith on the other side of John Smith Road are Hope Mills. It's a donut hole.
Yes, this area, if you're talking about this, yes. But the area, I get Commissioner Bellflowers was talking about this entire area here. This is all R6A and R10, which is all residential.
Yep, right. Yep. Thank you, Chancellor.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay, at this time I'll open the floor for public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of this rezoning of 1.49 plus or minus acres from R6 residential and C3 heavy commercial to CP planned commercial? Is there anyone that would like to speak against this rezoning? All right, it's time to have a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Thank you. And so now I guess it's up to the board to decide their wishes as far as this property.
That is correct. Also, if you notice, what I'm starting to do now is the motion that's in your packet. I crafted it to read what you would basically say, so that you wouldn't have to paraphrase the Joint Planning Board's words. But it's open to whatever decision the board wishes to make.
Okay.
Mayor Warner?
Yes,
I'd
ma'am.
like to make a motion to approve it.
Okay, can you read his motion that he has
Okay.
prepared?
In case P 18-45, the Town of Hope Mills Board of Commissioners move to approve the rezoning from R6 residential and C3 heavy commercial to CP planned commercial, and find this recommendation to be consistent with the Southwest Cumberland Use Plan 2014, which calls for heavy commercial at this location. CP planned commercial is classified as a heavy commercial zoning district, and further find that approval of this request is reasonable and in the public interest because the district requested is in harmony with the surrounding zoning and existing land uses.
Okay, I have a motion. Any other discussion?
Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Chancellor,
Yes, sir.
C2P was not an option?
More restrictive zoning is always an option, but the recommendations from the planning board and from staff, in my opinion, I followed the compliance with the 2030 and the Southwest plan that called for heavy commercial and urban at this location. But C2P is an option, but I think the planning board probably used the same logic as I did as the reason why they just went ahead and approved or recommend approval of the request. But there's always an option for a restrictive zoning. But again, if I'm looking at the policies that are adopted with the 2030 in the Southwest, that this request was in compliance.
We have no knowledge what's going to go on this property other than it's just going to be a straight zoning for sale.
That is correct.
No conditions, just straight.
I reached out to the applicant actually today because of some concerns that I anticipated. So I wanted to at least make sure that I knew definitively whether there was or wasn't. And he did indicate to me that he's marketing this for sale and that he does not have a plan to develop it himself.
All right. Well, Mayor, my final comment is, I have reservations about straight zoning. I do. And I tell you, it's because of all of that residential area that's on John Smith Road. I just do. That's the reason I asked, was that an option? Thank you, Mayor.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I concur with Commissioner Bellflowers that C2P might be more proper with it being right there, residential lots right beside it.
I agree with both of you.
Now, I guess for procedural wise, do we have a motion on the floor that
We
has
have
to
a
be
motion on the
seconded?
floor. I need to vote for this motion.
Unless you'd like to make a friendly amendment.
No, I think I'll go on with what the staff recommends.
Okay.
Okay, so the staff recommends that this will be a CP planned commercial. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed? Okay. So it's
Madam Mayor, I'll make the motion in case P 18-45, the Town of Hope Mills Board of
wait just a second.
Commissioners.
He's
If you're getting ready to entertain C2P, I do have that
All right.
crafted for you.
Oh, good.
and does he not have to specify a reason why we did not approve C? Is that in there?
Just bring it on.
CP?
Thank you, sir. I'll read it. Okay, Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I want to make a motion
Okay.
for C2P approval in case P 18-45, the Town of Hope Mills Board of Commissioners move to deny the rezoning from R6 residential and C3 heavy commercial to CP planned commercial and approve the rezoning from R6 residential to C2P planned service and retail and find it is consistent with the text of the Southwest Cumberland Land Use Plan 2014, which recommends strip commercial along Hope Mills Road and is consistent with the location criteria for light commercial in the land use policies plan, and further find the approval of C2P is reasonable and in the public interest because the district recommended will restrict the allowable uses to those that would be in harmony with the existing commercial uses in the area without allowing the heavy commercial that would not be compatible with the remaining residential zone properties. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, do we have any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, so that's 4-1, and it's approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'll read our consent agenda. Whoops, back up. Public comments. Slip right away from them. All right, this time we have public comments. You get to sign up prior to our meeting. You have 3 minutes. Make sure you identify yourself, your address when you come to the microphone. At this time, I'd like to recognize Elizabeth Cooper.
Elizabeth Cooper, 4413 Goldenrod Court, Parkton, North Carolina, 28371. However, I am a resident of Hope Mills. First, I want to applaud you all on the audit, knowing that it only went through June of this year, so most of it was based on things that happened last year. Wanted to make reference to the ethics training that took place a couple months back. My understanding was that only half of the board actually attended, that being Commissioner Bellflowers, Commissioner Edwards, and Mayor Warner. And I applaud you for taking the time to get that training because it is critical when you are leading a community. Then I wanted to briefly touch on I spoke last time about my issues with the money that we spent for this planning for Parks and Rec and the money we're planning to spend on a walking trail. But then you're considering just folding under Fayetteville Parks and Rec, which to me makes zero sense. And my understanding is in the meeting following, after I had to leave because I was in pain, that Melissa Adams told you that Fayetteville has already said they're not going to be responsible for special events, parks, parades, lakes, old mills. So they're not going to, they don't have a youth sporting program, so then that's gone. We don't have the Dixie Youth anymore. And food truck rodeos. Where's the funding going to come from those? I mean, I know you have a festival committee, but where does the funding come from if you don't have a Parks and Rec department? How do you allocate that? Who's supervising how the money is spent? I don't understand what possible thought process could be involved in continuing down the path towards folding under Fayetteville Parks and Rec. You're just throwing away all of the resources and the things that make Hope Mills what it is. Merry Christmas. I did want to say that because I forgot to do that last time, and I hope you all have a wonderful holiday. I also want to touch base on the Heritage Committee that Commissioner Mitchell is on. Here it is December 17th, and just now you're proposing a meeting about the Parish House. What have you done in this year? The Parks and Rec Committee, Larson, your liaison, December 17th, and the only thing you've done is spent money and then decided to give it away to someone else. I'm confused as to why you're the liaison there. I love the plans for the new building for public safety. I think it's definitely needed. And I just want to point out that one of the smallest expenditures you had in your audit was Parks and Rec. Thank you.
Ms. Cooper, I'd like to say something. There's obviously some confusion or disconnect with the citizens, perhaps. All this board's doing is due diligence at this point. We've not committed to anything, and I've made that clear in previous meetings. So I don't know where the commitment. We've not committed to anything at this point.
You are using taxpayer money to pay Miss Adams to go and talk to Fayetteville Parks and Rec
That's
about.
a lot smaller than $1 million a year subsidy, I'm sure.
I'm seriously wondering why you would waste her time on an effort that is going to throw away revenue for the future. You have a great audit right now. It's awesome. You have most areas you haven't even spent 50% of what you budgeted, which is amazing. I know, trust me, okay? But here you have these resources, the revenue that comes in from when they said services and things that brought in the revenue was the second or third highest revenue. Where do you think most of that comes from? Permits? Yes. But Parks and Rec. You have all these kids joining baseball because they want to be Dixie Youth. You're just going to give it away.
Well, perhaps you weren't privy to that conversation, but our revenue's down the third in 3 years, and our expenditures up 22%.
I saw the audit, and I have the paperwork right here, and I have the numbers. I know that, yes, property taxes may be down because of depreciation. We just had 2 hurricanes in the last 2 years. What do you think that's going to do to home values? Okay? And you have an increase from all the commercial, but every commercial thing that's come in front of you, aside from Chick-fil-A, give you credit there, you guys have turned down. So what? I mean, it looks great now, but you've only been involved for half a year, and you really haven't done anything other than vote yourselves pay raises. I don't understand how you can complain about what is being spent, and you have all this time. You've been here a year. You haven't done anything other than give yourself a pay raise.
Well, we'll lay it out for you, make it clear what we have done.
Okay.
Thank you. Next, we have our consent agenda, and I'll read this. If there's anything you'd like moved to new business, we may do so. Consideration of the approval of the minutes from the October 22nd, 2018 regular meeting. Consideration of the approval for the minutes from June 11th, 2018, October 8th, 2018, October 22nd, 2018, and November the 5th, 2018 closed sessions. Consideration of purchasing a crack sealer for the Streets Department from Sherwin Industries Incorporated for the amount of $39,100 plus applicable taxes. This item is included in the current budget. Consideration of contracts for 5 roof repairs to parks and recreation facilities damaged by Hurricane Florence amounting to $87,345 and being provided by Danny Odom Roofing Insurance and will cover most of the repairs, and the rest will be submitted to FEMA for reimbursement. And consideration to accept the November 2018 financial statements. Is there anything that you would like moved from our consent agenda to our new business?
Motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion to approve. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed. Next, we have on our under old business, we have the consideration, we have the discussion of external investigation request. And this is, I guess, turned over to Mr. Hartzog.
I was hoping to have some names of some investigators and some prices tonight, and unfortunately I don't have that. I have had some conversations with North Carolina League of Municipalities, and from what I understand from my conversations with them, this is not something that they would be willing to pay for, because it's not creating an issue of liability. That's really where they would do an investigation, sort of like an employment claim that could prevent a lawsuit type thing. But they are helping to come up with some names of some investigators who could do this. What I've told them is that I think we really need someone with some knowledge and background in municipal land sales, that would be familiar with some of the issues that might come up. It looks as though it'll be something that the board will have to allocate some money to do. I don't think it would be a very involved, lengthy investigation. I think it would mainly involve reviewing some of the documents and conducting interviews with the board members and the staff who were involved in the process. So I don't think it would be an outrageous amount of money or anything, but it would be something that we would need to fund. I'm supposed to hear back tomorrow, hopefully, from the league on some potential names of investigators. You may know that the town of Holly Springs did a similar investigation recently, And it was the same sort of deal. The league did not fund the investigation, but helped find the investigator to conduct the investigation. So that's sort of where we stand, unless there's any questions at this point.
Are there any questions of Mr. Hartzog at this time?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
Dan, without any question, if the league's not going to do it, which obviously it says like it looks like way, and we go outside to another investigator, it is imperative, like you said, that whoever the investigator is needs to have a background in the sale of municipal property. And I think that goes to the strength of the entire process. And so I would definitely wouldn't want any investigator without that background knowledge, you know, to look at conducting this investigation. Right. That's one. Two, whatever investigator is selected, I strongly recommend that interviews be scheduled with all the board members and to include town staff as the investigator begins the process of the allegations. Third, my goal was with this request was for this process to start in January. Now it looks like the second meeting of January, maybe, that we may have some answers.
I'm hoping by the next meeting. I don't know when our next scheduled meeting will be.
It's the 8th.
January
January
7th.
7th.
I'm hoping by that meeting I'll have some names and some, you know, hourly rates, that kind of thing, that we can, you know, the board can make a decision on who they would like to retain to do that. I do agree that, you know, a background in land sales would be good, because it's a fairly complicated area that you know, you want someone to know what they're looking at. So.
Well, there's a lot of statutes involved in municipal that doesn't apply to
Correct.
public.
Correct.
And that's why the strength of the investigator really needs that background. I thank you, Dan, and Mayor. That's all I have.
Okay. Next on the agenda is the discussion of dates to meet with the Historic Preservation Commission at the Parish House in January. And do we have some dates, some recommendations?
Yes, Madam Mayor. I was not able to attend the meeting. Was out with bronchitis last week, but Commissioner Larson was able to attend, and they decided they recommended January 8th, 9th, or 10th at 3 o'clock. If the board could make one of those. That's a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I believe.
What date?
8th, 9th, or 10th. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
At 3 o'clock.
We have to have daylight because there's no electricity.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Mayor Pro Tem, can I add something to this too? Is it possible that when we're finished with the Parish House, can we take a tour of the existing building where the museum is proposed now?
That's fine by me.
Can we include both?
Mm-hmm.
I was going to add this the last time, and I just kind of forgot it. But I'd like to see both properties. And since we're all going to be together at the Parish House, why not just look at both of them? If that's the wishes of the board.
That's fine with me.
Fine with me.
I don't have a problem.
Well, one of them's got to be done before it gets dark, and we have power in the building, so.
Right.
So,
May I
yes,
ask-
sir.
Excuse me. How much damage was done to that building when it was hit last week?
Commissioner Legg, I sent you all the pictures and the email from Chief Building Inspector Ray Reeves. I have been down there to see it, and basically the foundation has been shifted.
I'm sending pictures down too.
There's a substantial amount of damage that was done.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so which date will be better, the 8th, 9th, or 10th?
10th is good for me, Mayor. Yeah, 10th is good.
So
It's fine by me.
It's fine with me.
the 10th at 3 p.m. Okay, so we'll meet at the
We'll have to do
Parish House
special
at
meeting
3
notice.
p.m. So you'll do a notice of possible quorum, and then we can go from there to the Trade Street location.
And this is open to the public as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay.
Anytime we
Both visits.
Yeah, both visits. Anytime we'd
visits.
have a possibility of a quorum, it would be open to the public. So do I need that in the form of a motion, or can we just, by consensus, we've got it, it's the 10th, 3 p.m.? Okay.
I think that's fine.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that'll be our next thing. All right, next on our agenda is discussion of Parks and Recreation Department and the golf course property, and I guess, Commissioner Larson, you requested this, so I'll turn it over to you.
So recently, I've been going through some of the news that's been put out there in one of the weekly publications, and I thought we would address some of that news. And I'm going to read series of portions of this article in particular, since it pertains to Parks and Rec and to the recreation in general. Town Manager Melissa Adams begins her manager's report. She announces she's already begun to negotiate with Cumberland County to take over Parks and Recreation Department. Are we in negotiations with Cumberland County to take over our Parks and Rec Department?
No, we're not. And I don't believe I said that in my manager's report. I said that I met with Amy Cannon and Tracy Jackson to begin the due diligence process before they send a representative to a joint meeting with
Correct.
the board.
Adams lets the county know that the town is interested in relinquishing control of Parks and Recreation back to the county. Has anyone from this board suggested that they are interested in the town relinquishing controls of Parks and Rec back to the county, or are we just fact-finding?
My understanding is that we are doing fact-finding, due diligence. We're exploring avenues. We're exploring partnerships with other entities. So it's just a conversation that we're having right now before they send a representative to come and meet with you all.
Sure. During the November 5th BOC meeting, Mayor Warner discussed the Mayor's Coalition meeting she attended on November 2nd and the number of complaints from area mayors regarding their struggle to get funding from Fayetteville. They have to submit requisition orders to Fayetteville for anything they want. They have to wade through legal and financial paperwork for months, sometimes years, before the requests are granted, if they're granted. This isn't really a question, but I think it would be a good idea if the board was able to maybe meet with some of the mayors and just hear what their experience is with Parks and Rec now that they have joined back in, and see how they feel about that.
The Spring Lake and Hope Mills are the two that are not a part of Fayetteville. The rest of them are a part, and most recently is when we have started having some work taking place in those small communities. Linden now has a park, and they've been a part of this for the entire time. So their frustrations have been that it has taken a long time, and only recently have they been started to get funding. And a lot of them requested the special funding because of all the things that occurred in Fayetteville, the broader Fayetteville. But I don't think it's a problem at all. If you want to come to and talk to the mayors, they'd be probably love to hear you.
If Hope Mills relinquishes control to Fayetteville, not only would we forfeit control of existing recreation and the development of future recreation, but we'd be forfeiting our special events. Has the town been told that we would forfeit control of any of our future development with Parks and Recreation?
No, the county hasn't told me anything other than what I stated in my manager's report, which is that they do not consider our special events Parks and Recreation, and we would have to continue those events ourselves.
Okay. Town employees have already begun to clear limbs and fallen vegetation, but the project is expected to cost taxpayers at least $150,000 before it is completed. Has the town been given a projected cost estimate of $150,000 to complete the golf course?
No, we don't have an estimate. We have not gotten to that point where we have an estimate of the cost. as of yet.
Okay. We attract residents because we have a thriving parks and recreation program, arguably the best in the county. And I do agree that we have a phenomenal parks and rec staff. Top notch. However, it was reported by McAdams that we had a 25% decrease in revenue in our parks and rec department. And it is my understanding that Parks and Rec staff is in the process of determining which programs are thriving and which programs have been in a decline to revamp the programs to be more successful. Is that correct?
Correct.
Without tax money we receive for Parks and Recs, there will be no funding for these events. The municipality will have to find ways to monetize events which have been free, or cancel those events permanently. Aren't our Parks and Rec programs, would it be accurate to say that we supplement the Parks and Rec department with approximately $860,000 out of our general fund, above and beyond the Parks and Rec tax that we collect?
I'm not sure the exact amount, but we do subsidize with the money that we receive for the taxes. By no means pays all of the for the entire budget of Parks and Rec. We do subsidize it with money out of the general fund.
So there would be an upward of $900,000 that would be towards special events. They would not go away. And in fact, when we were with the county before, we still had all those special events.
We would continue with the special events that the board chooses to. We've not even gotten to that discussion yet.
Yeah, no, I know.
So, but.
All right, so giving control of our parks and recreation has another side effect. Because it would belong to the county, it would be open to the county. Our lake, our walking trails, our youth sports would be all rolled under the umbrella of Fayetteville assets and advertised as such. Residents of Hope Mills would find themselves in a situation where they can't enjoy the lake because the parking lots are full of Fayetteville residents. Your children may not be able to play sports here in our backyard because the teams are full of children from outlying communities. Aren't our parks and rec programs, parks, and lakes already open to not only Fayetteville and county residents, but to everyone?
That's correct. They are.
The board initially voted to approve a site plan in July of 2017. Several weeks later, they agreed to a $36,000 contract with Fleming Associates, who would draw the site plan. It's not clear why this board chose to reject the previous plan or spend an additional $14,000 on site plan revisions, but this newly approved site plan already has an issue. Board members were told Fleming's and Associate took issue with some of the undisclosed aspects, and they were being asked to meet at the lake last week so they could personally see the problem. Is it fair to say that this board rejected the previous plan because they felt the boardwalk was overbuilt for the area and not aesthetically pleasing? And would it also be fair to say that the elimination of the boardwalk would be a significant cost savings to the taxpayers?
I believe that's correct.
And could you also explain why we went to the lake last week?
Yes, ma'am. I have that in my manager's report. The purpose of that was to finalize the changes to extend the ADA access ramp into the swimming area from the kayak launch and to add a stairway into the central portion of the swimming area.
Thank you. Commissioner Mitchell eagerly agreed to pay as much as $50,000 for a turning lane on Gulfview Road to accommodate visitors to the trail, but NCDOT has plans to widen the road to accommodate traffic coming from I-295. Did anyone remember anyone agreeing eagerly to spend $50,000 on a turning lane?
I'm drawing a blank on that. I don't remember that figure or anybody talking about that at the meeting.
In fact, isn't town staff reaching out to DOT about not needing a turning lane due to the future widening of Gulfview?
That is correct. Again, that is in my manager's report, that we are currently reaching out to NCDOT to inquire if there is a requirement for a turning lane.
Isn't town staff also reaching out to Cumberland County Schools and to the county to possibly donate skills of their on-staff engineer to design a driveway and a parking lot at the golf course, since this will be a public park open to everyone?
That's correct.
Thank you. In mid-November, a man was shot in Ed Herring Park in the Eaglewood community of Hope Mills, adjacent to the old golf course. The shooting occurred during daylight hours. I spoke to Hope Mills Police Chief Joel Achardo, who said Hope Mills PD was aware of a growing concern in the neighborhood. He also indicated the crime rates in that park were insignificant compared to the rates in the municipal park. Wasn't the shooting at Ed Herring Park an isolated incident between two people that knew each other?
That's correct.
And wouldn't it be an obvious conclusion that the municipal park would have more incidents occur due to the amount of people and size of that park in comparison to Ed Herring?
That's correct.
The municipal park is also open only from sunrise to sunset. Isn't the municipal park open till 11
Till
p.m.?
11 p.m.
Thank you. The wooded areas, especially near the creek, have been used by vagrant community for years. And several years ago, an arsonist was using the wooded area around the golf course to move around unseen after starting fires on the golf course. After speaking with Chief Achardo, was he aware of an arsonist starting fires on the golf course and complaints about vagrants near the wooded area of the creek?
No, not to my knowledge. There may have been one or two fires there may have been one or two fires set several years ago
Was
by
he declared an arsonist?
by a young man.
Was he declared an arsonist?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
But and there to the chief's knowledge, there were not any complaints about vagrants being
And
a
he
problem.
went back how many years in?
He went back 24 months.
24 months.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
A walking trail was not a priority for residents, and it may have conflicted with what the experts were planning to suggest for that land. Were walking trails not in the top 4 picks of the resident surveys?
That's correct.
Okay. Commissioner Larson, I'm going to go ahead. This one, it's not has to do with Parks and Rec, but it's been regurgitated on several articles, so I'm going to address it once and for all. Commissioner Larson altered the results of the study when she insulted McAdams Group, included a 20-year-old PwC water survey indicating Lake Beg No. 2 was necessary for a future water reservoir. PwC has denounced that survey and declared it outdated. Now the board is altering the results again by dictating to the experts what they're planning to develop. I have never contacted PwC. I did not provide the board with a 1999 water survey on Lake No. 2. In fact, that was provided to the board by town staff on June 12th. Our decision to not sell the property at Lake No. 2 was made on June 18th. June 18th. On July 13th, I forwarded the 1999 study along with the 2014 water application to 2 members of the Air Quality Stakeholders Committee. I repeat, I did not contact PwC. How there was communication between the mayor and Nick Nolan over my Air Quality Stakeholders email is a mystery. But that letter was never addressed back to me. It was addressed to one of his employees that's on the Air Quality Stakeholders, and that was what it was for. It was not in relation to Lake No. 2 or LSF. Now, I'm just starting to go through these articles because I don't typically pick them up and read them. But since the investigation is around the bend, there's a lot of allegations that are going to be addressed. And there's a lot of dealings throughout for the investigation where the owner of the weekly publication sent to many other entities or people and blind copied certain elected officials that we didn't know about. So that will be included, and that stuff will all be provided during the investigation. But as far as the Parks and Rec, that is inaccurate information. And I had the chair come to a Parks and Rec meeting and wanted to know why we were spending $50,000 on a driveway, and I had no clue what she was talking about. So I wanted that to be cleared up, that that's just not correct.
Is that all?
Yep.
All right, we got a new business. That's consideration of an annexation petition, adoption of a resolution instructing the town clerk to investigate the sufficiency. This is behind tab 9, and you want to address that?
I can, Madam Mayor. This is strictly the board accepting the annexation request, which you are required by law to accept. And then the resolution, we would need a separate motion to approve resolution number 2018-26, directing the clerk to investigate the sufficiency.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
One of the concerns I've heard Ms. Adams about this is the stormwater issue that we have on Sumner and Deaver and Rockfish in that area. It is not at this point that we will address that. That will be later down the road.
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that for people because I know that was something that they were questioning.
Right.
Okay.
You want to make the motion?
Madam
now?
Mayor, I'll just go ahead and make the motion.
Okay. Go ahead, Commissioner Bellflowers.
To adopt the resolution directing the clerk to investigate the annexation petition received under General Statute 168-31 will be needed. And this resolution number is 2018-26, Deaver Circle Apartments Phase 2 annexation.
Okay, I have a motion. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed. Next, we have case number 18-103, consideration of the Circle K R&R 2723046 CP site plan review, Hope Mill zoning and subdivision ordinance, zone CP, acreage 4.31 acres, plus or minus, located at 674 and 730 Chickenfoot Road, Service Road 2252. It's submitted by Circle K, Andy Parola, Developer, and Timmons Group, Rick Baker, Engineer. And I'll turn it over to Mr. McLaughlin at this time.
All right, I'll try to keep this brief. As stated before, this is case 18-103, site plan approval for Circle K. As you can see, the subject properties off of Chickenfoot Road is highlighted in white on this area photo. This is a copy of the proposed site plan, and I'll leave that up on the screen as well. I also wanted to give you an show you this map, similar to the last map that we put together for the rezoning. All the areas that are whited out are in the MIA or in the county, and all the areas that's shown in green represent the town limits to clearly show that 674 and 730 Chickenfoot Road is located within the town, which is why this is being considered this evening. As it relates to the subject property, it's a 1.49 acre split zone parcel that is addressed as 2603 and 2605 Hope Mills Road. Site roughly has, no, wait a minute. This 2.96 acre parcel is located at 674 Chickenfoot Road at the southeastern intersection of Chickenfoot and an unimproved section of Corporation Drive. The site is developed within an existing Circle K gas station that was approved by the Board of Commissioners in 2003. The applicant is proposing to demolish the existing structure and rebuild a new Circle K gas station, which also includes the development of the adjacent commercially zoned parcel addressed as 730 Chickenfoot Road. The new site will be a 4.31 acre development, and will front approximately 430 feet along Chickenfoot Road with 354 feet of frontage along Corporation Drive. The new development will also propose ingress off of Chickenfoot Road and Corporation, while providing for a total of 28 parking spaces where only 10 are required. The unimproved portion of Corporation Drive adjacent to this development will be improved as a part of this proposal, and 5-foot sidewalks are required along Chickenfoot and Corporation. Town of Hope Mill staff is recommending approval of this request.
Have any questions or concerns for Mr. McLaughlin at this time?
Madam Mayor, motion to approve site plan for case number 18-103.
Okay, I have a motion. Any other discussion? Did you want to speak, Commissioner Legg?
I just want, are they just enlarging their area?
Yes, ironically, this is the same group that we just approved last hearing for the Circle K at Rockfish in Maine. This is that model that you've seen around town, similar to the model that they constructed at Cumberland in North Maine. It's the difference between this one is that the property was already zoned under commercial, but because they're demolishing the existing building and building back, they had to come get a site plan approval. Otherwise, they would have been able to just permit it directly. But it's the same model based on what we've looked at.
Is the new cloverleaf out there going to affect any of their existing property?
No, not to my knowledge.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion? Or we have a motion. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed. Thank you, sir. Next, we have discussion and consideration to schedule a workshop with a representative from the North Carolina DOT, Division of Highways, District Engineer, Division 6, regarding the flooding issue of the C. Wayne Collier Elementary School areas, Rockfish Road, Deaver Circle, and Sumner Drive public roadway areas. And this is requested by Commissioner Bellflowers. Do we have an update on that, Ms. Adams?
Well, I have the email that we received from Mr. Richie Hines, DOT, District Engineer, and I'll be happy to read that to you all, and then we can enter into discussion as to how we want to move forward with that. Thank you for your correspondence. The department is aware of the drainage issue in this area of Rockfish Road and is pursuing a permanent solution to it in development of projects on Rockfish Road and Camden Road. As you are aware, this location is located in a naturally occurring low area with no existing outlet for runoff. Prior development in the vicinity has increased impervious area, which only exacerbates the situation. I expect that the projects will address the drainage issue sufficiently on a permanent basis, but an interim measure contained within the right-of-way may be difficult to obtain. I have received a copy of your recent letter to Superintendent Connolly about the possibility of stormwater improvements at C. Wayne Collier Elementary School. I would be willing to meet with the town and the school to discuss this further if you would like.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
since I put this on the agenda as a continuation from November the 6th discussions, we have a number of letters and now a new email about this dangerous area. And I cannot emphasize enough how dangerous this area is. As I was quoted in Lisa Waring's article in the Sandspur, a number of folks that I've talked to, and I'm sure the board has too, look at this area as a huge problem without any type of resolve. Now, Mr. Hines' email is really nice. I guess he wants to or agrees to meet with us or even suggest to meet with us. Mm-hmm. But I'd like to have a workshop with him and somebody from the school to seriously discuss what we're going to do to fix this before someone is seriously injured, and I mean seriously injured, either in body or physical property. There are kids that go to Seamway Collier School. My grandkids go there. And I would think that with the flooding issue that's there, this would be a priority in this state to address this issue. I really would. I really would. I think it's a priority. Because, you know, a lot of times bad things happen when nothing's done or nothing's addressed on the front end. We can do this. And I think we should do this. And I think we should do it in a cooperation with Mr. Hines and someone from the school system. Now, of course, we're fortunate that we have an exceptional stormwater administrator like Beth Brown, who is here, that will assist in any activity that she needs to provide any of these individuals. And not too long ago, Golden Leaf, which has been a great asset for the state, they have a lot of money for grants as well, and we benefited from Golden Leaf a couple years ago with a grant. This is what grants are. But if we don't make the effort, it will just continue to flood the way it's been flooding. And then something happens. And then if we lose somebody, then we have to question ourselves, what did we do to fix this on the front end? So, Mayor, I would like to schedule some type of workshop, I guess after the holidays, with these two individuals. Direct the town manager to set up a workshop with these two individuals. Can't come soon enough for me. It could be tomorrow. I don't know if she can make them come here that quick, but it's not soon enough for me.
What I can do is I can get a couple of dates from both entities, and then, you know,
can you send them out and we can just do a consensus, Mayor? Is that?
That'll work.
Will that be, because everybody's going to be busy for the holidays, and we won't meet again until January the 7th. And if you can get a date, just send them out and we'll respond that way.
Mayor,
Sure.
I think that might be the first day they go back to school. I think this Friday may be their last day for the holidays. And I think around the 7th is what I heard, that they were going back to school. Someone else might have a better date on that than I do. So it's going to be in January. And that's not, I'm like you, it's not soon enough.
Yeah, it's not soon enough.
I live there. I drive through that.
So we'll see if you can get some dates, then you can send them. Okay.
I will do
Thank
that.
you. Thank you.
Okay.
No problem.
Okay, the next thing is the discussion, consideration of the revision of the interlocal agreement establishing a joint planning board as approved by the Cullman County Board of Commissioners at their November 17th, 2018 meeting. This interlocal agreement was established in 1968 and is approved again and called the interlocal agreement in 1973, and it's pretty much been in place. You do have a copy of it. This is where we are part of the joint planning, and we do have our representative there, and there also shows you the list of the representation from the other members of the county. What they're requesting and what how they've amended this is that the current agreement provides that the planning board appoint an acting director from among other planning staff to serve as a director upon the position becoming vacant and until a successor is hired. It further provides that the planning board will recommend persons who may be suitable to serve as director to the county manager. Then the county manager and the managers or administrators of each participating town will form a committee to nominate the director. And the Board of Commissioners will make the final selection. It's not limited to the recommendations made by the committee. The amended agreement proposes to make the hiring and managerial supervision of the planning director consistent with the treatment of other county department heads that are subject to the direct supervision and control of the county manager, including the hiring and the termination of the director. The proposed amendments will do that by making the planning director a regular county department head that reports directly to the county manager. Because this is an interlocal agreement, the amended agreement will have to be approved by each participating town. Included with this correspondence are copies of the most recent agreement executed upon by the incorporation of Lee Eastover and the revised interlocal agreement approved by the Board of Commissioners. And they ask that we approve this change. And what they have found is that the person that heads up the Joint Planning Board should be a department head, especially now that with the things that are happening and the amount of things that are considered by that board, and it is an interlocal agreement. So the county manager would actually be responsible for the hiring and direct supervision of that position. So what they're asking us to do is basically to support, as a member of this interlocal agreement, this amendment that they're putting forth. Any questions? Do I have a motion to support this agreement? We do not have to have a resolution. All we have to do is authorize me to sign that our town agrees with this change, this amendment.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
see, when you said they were going to hire someone,
What they normally do is the director it is considered the person that's in charge of the Joint Planning Board. But in the past, what has happened is you make recommendations from that board itself. They believe that this position now warrants being a department head, and that way it is under the direct supervision of the county manager. And quite frankly, having worked with the Joint Planning Board for all these years, I can truthfully say that I believe there's a lot of politics in the hiring of the director, and this way it would be when it's done by recommendation of people on that board. And probably the best and most effective way would be for it to fall back under the county manager as a department head. And that's what they're requesting. The county commissioners have approved it. It just now requires that each municipality that is a member of the interlocal agreement approves it also. And that was, the whole agreement was actually behind tab 12.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion to approve. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed, and I will sign this so that it can go back to them. Next, we have discussion approval to direct the town manager to begin the planning process to implement the Hope Mills Lake Park Phase 2 improvement plan in January 2019. And this was requested by Commissioner Bellflowers, and this is behind tab 13.
Thank you, Mayor. Now that we have engaged in the bulkhead design with Fleming, and we're going to be moving forward with the bidding process, it is now time to finish the project in the lake park, and that's the Phase 2 piece. And as part of the dam permitting process with the Corps, the town made a commitment to the improvement of the recreational space in order to promote public use and safety around the lake area. We're in the winter months now. Now is the time. If we're going to finish this project, which I know we will, we have to go ahead and direct the town manager to put this process in motion. Some of the items that were part of the Lakefront Park final master plan that have not been completed are a picnic shelter, and that's located next to where the proposed kayak launch is. A deck, porch swings along the area where the bulkhead will be constructed. Additional educational signage. Demolish the house on Fountain Lane, which was given to the town. And that's a priority project right there onto itself, to demolish that house. And create a one-way gravel parking lot with angled parking and access to the current parking lot. Reconfiguration and improvement of the current parking lot, which will add additional spaces for all the folks that will be coming to our lake park next summer to enjoy it. Going to tear out the planters, and that's pretty much where that picnic shelter is going to go, right there on that end. It's not going to be a big one, but I'll come back to that. Going to improve the existing landscaping, and of course that's going to be a partnership with Fleming and whoever builds the bulkhead. Another significant partnership of a project. And finally, if we're going to do the landscaping, we're going to put real sod in, real sod, not seed, sod, and to keep it green, that has to have an irrigation system. Those are the items that were left over from phase 2 that need to be completed, and they're part of the Winters and Revenue final master plan report, which was dated back in February 2018 when I was chair of the Lake Advisory Committee. And we looked at this plan and we knew that these amenities, and that's what they are, to complete a first-class lake park with a first-class dam structure that has survived several first-class storms. Now, there may be some questions about the picnic shelter. The thought process with that was the accommodations at the end of that park right there next to where the kayak launch is and where the ADA ramps are going to be located. It's not a huge picnic shelter, but it is a shelter, and it's for accommodations of folks. You don't have to have special abilities or disabilities to use it. It's going to go right where those planters are. And we talked about this at length, and Al Ferry's here, he knows, he was a member of the committee. We talked about this at length of the amenities that we wanted to really bring in to the lake park. So that's why, Mayor, I put it on the agenda for tonight, because this is the next phase that once we directed the implementation of the bulkhead, we need to direct the manager to move forward with the remaining items to what I like to say, and Tonzi Collins, get her done. Thank you, Mayor.
Would we have those pictures that we could show?
Well, we have the large,
I was going to say,
Commissioner
so that
Bellflowers
those,
has the
those
large
are here, they
drawing
could show them what it was.
that shows the parking, the Fountain Lane house as a gravel parking.
Mm-hmm.
This is the,
Yeah, that home
Yeah.
was donated to the town by Elaine Saleeby.
mm-hmm.
This is the final master plan after the donation
Donation.
of the property.
Right. That,
And everything that I just said is on this board, exactly in the location.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
can I make a comment?
Yes, sir.
Has it been discussed about the irrigation system coming from the lake water? Or, Don, can we do that? Just put a pump and use the irrigation system from the lake?
mhm.
Probably have to build a cistern in there.
Yeah.
That's just a small one.
Have to build a what, sir?
A cistern. A cistern?
Just a small cistern.
Yeah,
Just pump,
pump.
yeah. Just put a pump
But-
and we draw water out of the lake.
Long term, it would be less expensive on us if we had to.
Yeah.
So, board members, that's my motion, is to direct our town manager to complete the project. Unless you have any questions.
I have one question.
Yes, ma'am?
What did they decide to do about the marquee?
That is a good question.
I believe it was recommended to
That is a good question.
leave it as it is.
We didn't have it in here.
No, it's in there. I think they address it in their plan. In the Withers and Ravenel had something. I remember seeing something about it. Let me see if I can find it. And I think that's because of the
That's a good question.
historical significance of what's there now. There, I think there was some issue with
I know there's money available for
with
it.
redoing it, but because I think at one point there was a discussion about redoing it to a digital, and that was not the direction that the committee wanted to go in, I believe. But
Which committee is that now, Jesse?
Lake Advisory.
Lake Advisory Committee
Can we
studied this.
Can we send that back to the Lake Advisory for
It's page what?
idea?
Page 7. Okay. Well, here's the recommendation. Thank you, Jane. It's on page 7. They talk about it.
It says it's historic.
Yeah, they've addressed it as historic. So I don't believe there was any recommendation from them to make any significant changes to it. It was refurbished a few years ago.
Okay, well, if it's historic, then perhaps the historical committee would weigh in on what we do with the marquee for recommendations. How does the board feel about that, Mayor Pro Tem?
That'd be fine. We could bring that up.
Okay. That's easy. Yeah.
Okay.
So, Madam Mayor?
Yes. All the committees have something to do with that.
I agree with everything on the plan except for the picnic shelter. I think it's a little redundant next to Big T's, next to the gazebo. It's kind of all rammed in one little section. But the rest of it, I think it's fantastic.
Call for the vote, Mayor.
Okay. All those in favor of proceeding with the Lakefront Park as designed by Withers and Ravenel, raise your right hand. All those opposed? So 4-1.
Yeah, that's going to go to the historical
4-1,
committee.
so we move forward.
Yep.
All right,
you.
next we have manager's report.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor, Board of Commissioners. As I indicated earlier when Commissioner Larson was talking about the issues with the the golf course and the Parks and Rec, Stephen Fleming with Fleming and Associates is now finalizing the changes to extend the ADA access ramp into the swimming area from the kayak launch and add a stairway into the central portion of the swimming area. The associated changes are being made to the project manual. Mr. Fleming is also preparing the paperwork for the advertisement for bids. Update to the Johnson Street sidewalk. 65% plans have been reviewed by NCDOT and red line changes have been forwarded to McGill Engineering to implement the changes in the 90% drawings. First engineering reimbursement has been received from NCDOT. Rockfish Road sidewalk. The McGill Engineering and the NCDOT field changes have been approved, and a request has been sent to McGill Engineering to restart the project at the earliest possible date. The new museum location. Public Works staff has removed the ceiling stippling and will continue to continue the sanding and skimming as time allows. We are in the process of finding an architect to design the ADA requirements for the building. Parks and Rec building, the update to the Parks and Rec building. The roof drain has been insulated. Once the sheetrock and drywall repair has been completed, the new carpet will be installed. We're still hopeful that Parks and Rec staff will be moving back in after the Christmas holiday.
Yay.
It can't come soon enough. I know. People are very anxious for that building to reopen. I agree. Not that we haven't enjoyed having the Parks and Rec staff here, because we have very much enjoyed it. and we've become closer knit and learned a lot about each other. So it's been a wonderful experience, but I know that they're anxious to get back to what they normally do. So Public Works Director John Sisko conducted a gate exercise on the Hope Mills Lake Dam on the 12th of December. And Schnabel Engineering is to schedule their next inspection on the dam sometime in January. The lake will be lowered to residents for the residents' maintenance period per the Lake Advisory Committee's recommendations sometime in January, with the dates to be determined. Update on the golf course, as I indicated earlier in the discussion, Public Works staff has begun to remove the hanging branches and the downed trees and the repairs to the cart paths. We are waiting on direction from our meeting with McAdams scheduled for tomorrow, Tuesday, December the 18th, to move forward with driveway access and parking. We are currently reaching out to NCDOT to inquire if there is a requirement for a turning lane. The proposed Gary Dove Memorial Building at Brower Park, we are currently reworking the design that was received from Duneland Signs, and as soon as we have a tentative date for completion, staff will begin coordinating with the family to schedule an unveiling. Public Works is continuing to collect limb and tree piles for Hurricane Florence removal. The contractor began removing debris from the golf course on December the 11th. Currently, the knuckle boom truck is out of service for hydraulic lines. Public Works staff will establish an end date for collection and make one more storm debris pass when the truck is back in service. That date is to be determined. And we'll publicize that. We'll put it on the website, social media. I'll email it to you all as soon as they determine that. The property that is being donated to the town by Ms. Brenda Jernigan, the preliminary survey plat has been reviewed and returned to 4D Site Solutions with our request for them to record. The preliminary plat has been sent to Tom Keith Associates, and they are working to finalize the appraisal paperwork. The real estate attorney that has been engaged has indicated we should have the closing on the property by the end of December. And I also plan to bring this up to Rachel Cotter with McAdams tomorrow to let her know that we're obtaining additional property to be used for a small park that was property that's being donated by this lady. So I'll let her know about that tomorrow. And then finally, we have been experiencing problems with the phone system at Town Hall, and the voicemail has not been working for about a week. The phone system will be down for a very large time period tomorrow, as they will be working to make the repairs. Unfortunately, I can't give you a begin and an end date for tomorrow, a beginning time and an ending time. It's going to depend on what they get into when they start making the repair. But we will be without phones here at the town office for a good part of the day tomorrow. So if you all need anything, call me on the cell phone. You'll still be able to, get me. There's not much we can do about it. It's an antiquated system. We talked about replacing it this year. Unfortunately, the budget didn't allow us, but this is definitely going to make it a priority to put it in the budget this next year, as I think that this repair is simply going to be just to get us through.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
we're halfway through the year.
Mm-hmm.
You know what bothers me is spending, I don't know how much, on repairs, Band-Aid fixes.
Well, I think we do have an amount.
Why don't we
At
just
the
replace
repair.
it, Drew?
Yeah.
Why don't we just go ahead and replace it?
$800, I think.
800?
800. Yeah, the repair is not exorbitant,
Oh,
but it's
okay.
the being without the phone that I took issue with. We're not going to have a phone system here for a good part of the day tomorrow, but there's not much we can do about that.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Is there a way they can do that on one of the days we're closed for the holidays? Or is that gonna dig into somebody else's?
That will make the cost significantly more. I can tell you that right now, because they're paid hourly, and if you're looking at them coming on a holiday or a day that we're closed, I think that they would probably charge more, if they would even do it.
I know we're closed like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, right?
But the issue also is we're without email, so we were trying to get it, or voicemail, I'm sorry, not email, voicemail. We have no voicemail. Nobody can leave a voicemail.
Just a thought. Thank you.
I think
I
Commissioner
can find
Bellflower's question was, how much is it going to cost to replace the system? Was that not what I heard?
I think we budgeted.
It was
yeah,
replacement.
I think we had in the budget an
Drew,
amount.
I'm just,
I know what you're thinking.
you know
Instead
what
of do
I'm
this repair, let's go ahead and get the new
thinking. You
system
know what
now.
I'm thinking.
We could do that. We could appropriate fund balance because that's pretty much, there's not a lot of extra revenues in the current budget this year that I foresee right now. I'll know more in a few months, but we could do a budget amendment, take some funds out of fund balance. If we have extra revenues during the year, then we wouldn't actually have to use it out of fund balance. It would come from the overage in those revenues. But it's still going to take a while, because if we were to start the process now of getting a new phone system, it's still going to take, say, 3 or 4 months to actually get it installed, which is going to put us in April, May timeframe anyways. So what we'll do is, me and Melissa have kind of already discussed this. If we put it in next year's budget and make it a top priority, then I start the budget process in February. I've already contacted the company that we'll still have to bid it out, but the company that we would like to go with, that a bunch of other towns use and recommend, and the North Carolina League of Municipalities is recommending this company as well. In February, if we let them know how much our interest is, we can go ahead and say, come July, as soon as you're ready to install it, be ready to go then. So, if we were to start now, it'd still take us to probably April getting it installed. But if we go through the budget process, go ahead and allocate it, knowing, we are going to put it in next year's budget, they can be ready to go sometime in July, hopefully.
Drew, I look at this just like that air conditioning unit out there. Remember that?
I know.
We thought it was going to work, didn't. There toward the end of the year. I mean,
we're still on borrowed time with the air conditioner now.
Yeah.
What we had to do with that, they still haven't replaced it.
Yeah, we've
Yeah.
not. Yeah, we've not.
We had to do some finagling to get the heat and air ducts done in the Parks and Rec Center before we did this building. But anyways, that's still going to happen.
all right.
But it's up to y'all, whatever you want to do.
I'd rather replace it.
We'd still be without voicemail.
We'll still have to fix this to get us to
Yeah.
when we can get the new system installed.
Yeah. $800.
So
That'll get us to when? The summer?
we hope.
Or we don't know.
We don't know.
See, it's a
but-
Band-Aid.
We
You
hope.
don't know.
I don't like Band-Aids either, but it's where we are right now.
I don't like spending $800 on something we're going to replace. That's what I don't like, Drew.
Well, we'd have to do it either way because we wouldn't be able to replace it till probably, like I said,
Yeah.
April, May timeframe. So we're going to have to do it anyways.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're not going to have voicemail for the next 4 or 5 months,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is fine with me. I don't mind.
well-
Nobody leaves.
But I have received several complaints from people, and I think perhaps maybe the mayor has too. Correct me if I'm wrong. They've been trying to contact Parks and Rec or an individual, and they can't leave a voicemail, or they've tried to leave a voicemail and they're not able to. So.
I don't miss that little red light on my phone. Sam.
This is only for a half a day that it's going to be like this? More?
Tomorrow?
Yeah.
Yeah, they couldn't guarantee the whole, whether it would be the whole day or a half a day, but I mean,
Couldn't we just
it
turn
should
the
be
system off and make
it should
sure
be
that when
fixed
someone
tomorrow.
answers the phone so that they're able to say that the voicemail is down right now?
It
And
doesn't even
that
go
we
to a
could take a
message.
like old school message and deliver it to people?
Well, in the phone system, it
Yeah.
won't let you go to a message. What happens is the front
yeah.
desk, if they get the call, they'll page us, Drew, you've got to call line 101.
Right. Right.
If I don't pick it up right then, or if I'm not at my
if
desk.
you don't answer, then you would take a handwritten old school message.
Yeah, I think
and
they've
just tell
been
them
they've
that
been
the
doing,
They are doing
voicemail is
that.
down.
they
Yeah.
they have been doing that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it sends it back
Yeah.
to the front.
I mean, I think people
Instead
are
of
pretty
voicemail,
forgiving
then
if
they
they
tell
understand
us.
that that's going on.
Yeah. I think where the issue has been is that the people, when they're unable to leave a voicemail or they've had an issue, they hang up.
Yeah.
And that's been the problem.
Yeah.
They've not gone back to the front
Yeah.
because people get kind of frustrated, when they're initially it's not answered. So a lot of times they'll hang up. So I think that's where the problem's been because they have been taking old school phone messages. Yeah.
Yeah, notepads.
Okay,
Yep.
Drew. All right.
So the consensus is to get it fixed. And
Oh,
then-
yes.
Okay, so we're moving
We're
forward.
fixing it next year.
Moving forward, getting it fixed. And then
We'll
next
make it a
year-
priority in this
Yeah.
next budget
Yeah.
to do a new phone system.
Yeah.
And that is all that concludes my manager's report. Thank you.
Okay. All right, we have, town office is going to be closed December 24th through 26th, and they'll also be closed January 1st, 2019 for New Year's holiday. The next meeting's coming up, January 7th is the festival committee at 6, and the Board of Commissioners, our next regular meeting will be at January 7th at 7 p.m. At this time, we'll move to staff comments. Do you have any comments from any of our staff?
I would just like to thank Commissioner Larson for this lovely calendar that came via the air quality committee that she serves on from FAMPO.
They pick the pictures, they judge the pictures, and then FAMPO actually puts the calendar together.
Yeah.
And there is inside, there's a contest that will be for this year for school children, ages kindergarten through 5th grade, and we're going to ask some of the information and some of the pictures to be put on our website, so everybody will be able to see those.
Yep.
Okay.
And Madam Mayor, I don't think there's any reference to any of the committee meetings, but I believe all of them are canceled the end of this month due to the holiday.
Okay.
So I don't believe there's any other committee meetings. The next one will be the
January
Lake
7th.
Advisory Committee is scheduled to meet the second Tuesday in January.
Okay, so the
And
festival
then,
committee is.
the rest of
yeah,
the
just
committees
the
would
two
carry
there.
on.
Okay.
Yeah,
January 7th one that's listed as festival committee.
right, exactly. Yep.
All righty.
Thank you.
Then we have anything from our attorney,
I
Hartside?
apologize for being a little bit late tonight.
We timed you
Cost
2 minutes.
Donuts right there.
Yeah, we
Donuts.
forgive you
For
for 2
tradition.
minutes.
Cost you
I had
donuts.
allowed 5, but you came in and under that, so I think we'll have to forgive you for that.
I'll
Don't want
still
you to
bring
get a
the donut.
speeding ticket, though.
Just kidding.
All right, next we have official comments, and I'll start with Mr. Legg.
I was gonna hit the donut deal, but you already did. Where is the status with the Dove family on getting the sign made for the building? And when do you anticipate on it being put
Well,
up?
That's what I reported on. We're reworking the design of the sign. We consulted with the family, and they've asked for some changes to it. And so as soon as I get a tentative date for completion from him, then we'll start scheduling
Okay.
for
What I was gonna
unveiling.
Suggest, this manager is, if we go too late into the spring.
Oh, no.
We might wanna hold it for
Yeah,
one
no.
day.
I anticipate it'll be sometime in January or maybe even early February, but it won't be any later than that, I don't believe. Mr. Brockner indicated, you know, he's been at the coast for a few days, and he indicated as soon as he got back, he had our changes that we've requested, and as soon as he got back, he would get us a new proof, and then he indicated to me that it wouldn't take him long to get it made. So,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
I'd like to thank the fire department for a wonderful dinner the other night. I appreciate that, as always. And I'd like to wish each and every one a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Commissioner Larson? I did sit in for Pro Tem Mitchell for the Historic Advisory Commission, so he'll get to do that update. He's been sick all week with bronchitis. I want to thank the fire department for the breakfast with Santa. That was awesome. It was just a really cool environment to be in. I think all the kids really liked it, you know, with the guys coming in and grabbing their gear. And so, yeah. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everybody, and Happy New Year. And that's it.
Okay. Commissioner Bellflowers?
I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I'd like to thank the auditors and Drew and his team for an excellent audit. The finances are sound. I want to thank Chancellor for some photos, some aerial photos today. I tell you, he's making it happen on zoning. And last, I would like to ask Melissa, and when you meet with Rachel tomorrow, can you ask her if she could construct a map of the golf course with the proposed walking path on it?
Okay.
And other than that, Merry Christmas.
Commissioner Edwards?
Well, I'd just like to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And if you're going out of town or anybody coming in, I hope they'll have a very safe journey. And just God bless everybody.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Again, I appreciate Commissioner Larson's standing in for me. Wednesday, December 12th at 5 p.m., the Hope Mills Preservation Commission met, and Ms. Waring and Mr. McLaughlin took minutes. I got a brief update here. They spoke about the meal reunion update. The reunion went well and was very well received. Many participants loved that the event was held in the boardroom and would like future events to be held there as well. Commission would also like to see an involvement of more youth as well. We already talked about the Parish House dates and have secured that. There was discussion for Pat Hall to approach Dr. Rayner to engage his interest in a lease agreement. This plan action would call for the demolition of the Parish House for property to be utilized as a parking lot. For the Historic Museum, as of now, the following activities have been completed by the Public Works staff. Flooring has been pulled up in the entire building. All ceilings have been scrubbed. All windows are ready to be changed over. Small amount of roofing left to be done. Electrical work in the attic needs to be completed. Casings may have to be taken off of interior doorways. Flooring could possibly be replaced with 1x6 pine wood planks to look more appropriate. The kitchen floor could remain vinyl if that's what everyone wants to do. 4-inch baseboards could be replaced as well. On the property adjacent to the museum, staff and commission members have been in contact with Randy Johnson, who is the son of Stanley Johnson, who owned the lot next to the proposed historic museum. Mr. Johnson informed staff that he's managing property, but he cannot do anything with his father's estate at this time. He did inform the town that we may use the property in return for keeping the grass cut, and that when the time comes to sell, the town of Hope Mills would have first consideration. And staff is researching language for a generic memorandum of understanding to outline the terms. And I appreciate Chancellor and Ms. Waring getting that to me. Thank you so much. And also I'd like to wish everybody Merry Christmas, And I hope our community can come together more than we've been. There's been a lot of strife. I assure you that these commissioners up here, we get along just fine. There's no trouble amongst us, as being reported in some periodicals. We are at peace with one another. We can call each other. In fact, we do call each other quite often and discuss matters so we can make informed decisions, intelligent decisions on your behalf. And other than that, appreciate you.
Thank you for coming this evening. We appreciate your support. We are a team effort up here, and we do hope that in the coming new year, that is one of the hopes, that we do continue to support each other. We all were elected, and we all represent the people of Hope Mills. So again, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and we'll see you on January the 7th.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Thank you.